So, we're back at it again. I'm going to be completely honest, I wasn't planning on making a part 2 of this. I felt like I had said everything I needed to say in part 1 and that everything would change for the better. Unfortunately though, that would soon prove to not be the case, and because of everything that has happened, a second part was absolutely necessary in my opinion. So sit back and relax as we delve into what has happened between when I posted my last video and now. Well, gonna be honest here, absolutely nothing has changed for the better. As you'll see in the next chapter, lots of people, including developers and higher ups at Light Interactive, have responded to the last video that I made. I'm just going to give you guys a heads up. Many of the responses I got from these people genuinely looked promising, and I was very optimistic as to what the developers had in store for the game in the not-so-distant future.
Our first update is one I'm going to bash a lot, and one that I forgot to talk about in my last video. It's known as the Lord X update. And many people, including myself, absolutely despise this update for very good reason. The quote-unquote event part of it was an absolute joke.
You had to play a song 26 times in order to get a goddamn morph that wasn't even worth it to begin with. Or you could instead, in a pay-to-win game fashion, pay 800 Robux, effectively scamming players out of their money for a stupid-ass morph. The morph itself was also incredibly lazily made and lacked a ton of details that Lord X had, one of which you can see right off the bat, which was the blood dripping from his eyes. I genuinely don't understand why this was the case. Roblox is not going to take you down when it's this big and when there are games like Bloodfest and Gladiators which showcase excessive amounts of blood and gore. A Sonic Creepypasta OC is not going to get your guys' game taken down. So, why did you guys leave this detail out? Another thing is the excessive smoothness on Lord X's hands and feet, which by looking at the original character's design, is not the way they are showcased as being. Lord X's hands and feet are extremely rigid and deformed, not smooth, unlike the morph. What bewilders me the most is that the other Lord X morph that Funky Friday was considering using actually had some of these details, like the deformed feet for example. Even if the other Lord X was overall shitty compared to the other one and the OG character design, it still had certain details which for some dumbass fucking reason wasn't translated to the new Lord X model. Here's a quick comparison of a few Lord X animations / rigs / morphs. On the left is the original Lord X, in the middle is Funky Friday's Lord X, and on the right is Friday Night Bloxen's Lord X. You can see that even if Funky Friday's Lord X looks smoother, F&B's has much more detail put into it, such as the blood dripping, more rigid limbs, more dynamic movement, and the fact that the idol isn't just a loop and that it's synced with the actual song. All of these details could have been great additions to Funky Friday's morph if they took the slightest bit more time to actually bring us quality updates. But unfortunately, that's not the case, not only due to this update, but also due to multiple other ones that we'll be taking a look at as well.
Next up we have another new map update, which had some good ideas, but was awful in execution. This update sported a new map and lots of new mods, but most of the mods were not suggested and were once again mods almost nobody asked for. Only mods that were suggested were the Dave and Bambi mods and maybe Horde's Red Fury. This new map also ended up removing the Miko Burger stage, which was again incredibly negligent and also pretty stupid. When 1, the Miko Burger restaurant itself is still in the new map, and 2, this affected both normal players and mobile editors alike. Light, if you're watching this, if you don't give a shit about editors, which you should because once again we put tons of effort into our content to bring new concepts to the table, at the very fucking least, care about your players. Anything that isn't 1v1s, 2v1s, or 2v2s has been silently removed from the game because the Miko Borger stage is gone, further proving Light's carelessness and the fact that they haven't improved in the slightest. After this, we have an update somehow rivaling the Week 7 one in terms of disappointing its audience, which is of course the Halloween 2022 update. Even if Funky Friday didn't have a Halloween 2021 update due to Roblox's biggest shutdown in ages, we had 6 updates which were on par with, if not exceeding the quality standards we were used to at the time. Not to mention the fact that they got a Halloween update as fast as they possibly could to try and compensate for Roblox shutting down. That is a team of developers who all care about their game and who try their best, of which seeing everything that's happened nowadays is simply just not the case anymore. Back to the actual update though. This update, once again, included mods literally nobody asked for, the only one actually meeting that criteria being Antipathy. This update genuinely had lots of potential and they could have updated highly anticipated mods like Lullaby V2, FNF Online, and Flippy Flipped Out. But as always, Funky Friday ignores their community and proceeds to give us the worst updates known to man. Apart from updates that are disappointing, we've also gotten updates that don't make any motherfucking sense, such as updates like these. It took legit 2 million years for Sonics to get updated when B-Sides and Wednesday's Infidelity were both updated at around the same time and were added to the game almost instantaneously, which again makes zero sense. I'll be elaborating more on this issue later though. Another thing about this update is that why the fuck did they add in a 2x points Game Pass? That just reduces the amount of time players are going to spend on the game when they buy this Game Pass, while simultaneously making the game more pay to win. As for the mods, no new or interesting mods that were highly suggested were added in. Surprise, surprise. After that, we have the Camellia update, which was yet again awful. 0 new mods and a walk speed setting that barely affects shit. Way to go, Light, you disappointed us yet again. And finally, we've got the RB Battles and Sonic Prime updates. I'm grouping these two together because they were roughly the same in terms of disappointment. These updates didn't even add anything you can consider to be content. The RB Battles obby was arbitrarily difficult, with zero leniency whatsoever, and the song used at the end was shit. The update where they, quote-unquote, made the obby easier did almost jack shit. All they did was remove the kill breaks, which contributed to basically nothing. As for the Sonic Prime shit, they just imported the models from Sonic Speed Simulator, gave you missions that were just the definition of tedious to complete, and scrapped the mid-fight Masses and Hog models Tambrush made, which doesn't make any sense. I just don't know what to say anymore. I was incredibly optimistic when it came to this as soon as I saw that certain Funky Friday developers had to say in response to my last video. But unfortunately, we live in a world where what used to be one of the best Roblox FNF games is now somewhat of a soulless corporation that doesn't even try to improve their game or listen to their community. Like, how the fuck is it possible that after tons of people, players and editors alike have been saying that we need a setting to toggle between the new and old camera angles, yet that setting ain't in the game yet? When people who are very reputable are speaking out about this, constantly asking you for this to be the case, why haven't you still implemented the setting? It's literally been 4 goddamn months. How hard is it to add in a fucking setting to change the angle of the camera, when it makes editing arbitrarily difficult for those who bring new concepts and ideas to the table? I'm sorry, Light, but you guys need to fucking stop what you're doing and start taking care of your game. I know you realize that you can make this game stay as bad as it can possibly be, and you'd still have people playing it. But if y'all are trying to be responsible developers who care about their game and community, stop being negligent and start communicating with us. We've gotten almost no word from you guys when it comes to mods like Hypno's Lullaby version 2, the FNF Online update, and Flippy Flipped Out version 1. All meanwhile, games like FNB are constantly communicating with their audience and providing tiny sneak peeks here and there. All we've gotten besides those messages is a shit-no model made by Tambrush, which might not even come to Funky Friday. We don't know if you guys are even still working on Lullaby from what you've told us. As for those horseshit messages, version 1 is already in the game, Java. Did you forget about that? You already have the devs' blessings for Lullaby, FNF Online, and Flippy Flipped Out. It's not like any of these updates were leaked builds, they were all officially released. So if that's the case, why aren't you guys at least starting to work on them? And why have we still gotten little to no word about it? When a mod that everyone's suggesting is having trouble being added into the game, then where is the communication? Where is the clarification? Where's anything that everyone could see about it? The last update Java gave on Lullaby coming to the game was on November 18th, and it's December as of the writing of this script. Been a good 2 weeks or so since we've gotten any word from y'all, light. Not only that, but if you guys are struggling with development issues, why haven't you been constantly saying that help is wanted on Twitter and Discord? If this is the case, I cannot believe it when the game is this big. All in all, it's incredibly disappointing seeing Funky Friday become even worse than before when they should be improving, not de-evolving. Everything's getting worse with each day that goes by, and the game is reaching new levels of falling off I could never even imagine seeing. I feel like this serves as a fair warning. Do not trust the Funky Friday developers when it comes to this. We've been optimistic and we've felt as if they can improve, but the opposite keeps happening time and time again. Incredibly saddening. Throughout the past 2 months, I've gotten various responses from multiple people regarding the last video, so let's take a look at those responses and dive into whatever bullshit these guys were spitting at the time. Now, before we do that though, I just want to say that I'm on good terms with a lot of these people, so please don't go ahead and harass them because there's no point. Harassment is never okay. Our first response comes from a Funky Friday contributor slash modeler known as Aaron, or VoxFox, not to be confused with Aussie. Aaron first commented on my last video with this. I already responded to it, but basically what happened was that Aaron brought up 2 arguments that I had already debunked in my last video. That being the fact that the Funky Friday developers have lives, which no shit they do, that's not an excuse because 2, they could just hire devs with flexible schedules using platforms like Discord and Twitter. And also, we haven't seen Java or anyone else do shit. So naturally, this would be the end of this. Aaron would have just stopped caring about this comment, and so would I. But no, he took matters into his own hands. On October 13th, Aaron sent this message in the Mod Maker channel on the Funky Friday community server, of which I once again responded to in a community post. This message was even worse than the first. Like, dog, why are you bringing up this argument that the devs have lives again when I literally debunked it twice? Once in the very video you're talking about, and twice in a comment you posted. Like, bruh, what's the point in saying it again? The optimization argument here is also pretty stupid, as not only is Funky Friday one of the best optimized FNF games on Roblox, but if you guys are really worrying that much when that should be the least of your worries, why not just start hiring developers specifically designated to optimizing the game? Oh wait, you guys don't communicate with the outside world and refuse to do so, so it's impossible for that to be the case. So basically, you guys are incriminating yourselves even more so than you are already. After this, my friend IsaFX managed to get me in contact with Vox and we settled everything. So those of you worrying that there's still beef between us, everything's alright. Don't worry. Up next, we've got someone known as a Coded Guy. Coded has worked on a few FNF mods here and there, such as Herobrine Reborn and Squaring Up. He's also semi-active in the Funky Friday community, which is cool, I guess. However, on the same day that Aaron posted his response to the Funky Friday Discord server, Coded whipped out his own response, which is laughably badly worded. Like, I cannot take any of what this guy is saying seriously, but I'll try to decipher whatever the fuck he was trying to say. Judging by a decent amount of these sentences, it could be assumed that Coded was referring to the Shorts YouTubers, which are irredeemable when it comes to doing anything good for the community. I'm not going to further elaborate as to why, so watch part 1 if you want to learn more about that. Anyway, me and Coded are indeed chill now. He apologized for his negative tone and it's all settled. But sometimes, that's not the case, especially when it comes to people who are literal pieces of shit, aka Manglepole. This motherfucker walks into my DMs and says I'm quote-unquote hostile when I have a right to be. Adam, when people keep on saying that Funky Friday needs to fix their game and start taking care of their community respectfully, Light doesn't do shit. That's exactly why I'm abrasive and outspoken in these videos. Funky Friday didn't listen to people who were diplomatic and peaceful, so they've gotta learn the hard way. Apart from that, this guy's terminally ill head-ass to use literal fucking clickbait thumbnails as quote-unquote evidence that he's been suggesting shit for a very long time. Now at this point, I knew this guy was either a huge troll or a spedtard. There's no way in fucking hell this guy thinks that Light, or any game dev for that matter, is going to listen to someone who makes thumbnails like these. You've gotta have severe fucking brain damage if you actually think that's the case. He also proceeded to say that he kept on DMing Java about these ideas, of which he provided zero concrete evidence to prove that. In the end, as always, Manglepole has once again made himself look like a fool, because he is one. And I don't plan on reconciling with him anytime soon. He's a sick, twisted fuck, and I despise him with every fiber of my being. Apart from that, various shorts YouTubers such as Catmania, Rix Osu, and Incredible Bacon have responded to the video. I'm not going to go too in-depth into their responses because once again, I literally debunked all of the shorts YouTuber stuff in part 1. And last, but certainly not least, we have Java himself. On October 18th, I was sent this message by a mod author known as MinecraftBoy2038. Some of you may know him as a friend of Incredible Bacon, perhaps a cringe-ass shorts YouTuber, or most likely a developer for the fan-made Dave and Bambi mod, Crumb Edition. And according to him, this was Java's response, and oh my fucking god. First off, none of what Java mentioned that was actually promising ever happened. He said that there were some valid criticisms, which I assume were in section 2 of my last video, and that he was going to start changing shit up. But surprise surprise, things got even worse and absolutely nothing changed for the better. Second off, I don't give a singular unapologetic fuck as to whether or not Mangopol is still making content anymore. He has given Funky Friday an incredibly negative reputation with his clickbait and is a fucking scumbag. There is no excuse as to why you're still supporting him / endorsing him. Overall, these responses are just terrible and either have extreme jumps of logic, are impossible to read, or just plain horseshit. Now, normally we'd move on to the conclusion, but unfortunately, there's one more thing that was secretly somewhat destroying the game, even more so than I thought, that we must talk about. Welp, this was something I certainly wasn't expecting to dedicate a whole ass section to, but here we are. First off, I want to go ahead and say that I still agree with what I said regarding the relation between Funky Friday dying and Gamefam. I still think that it wasn't just because of Gamefam and that Gamefam wasn't really what ruined the game. However, what I disagree with is how I undermined Gamefam's ability to fuck things up because good god was I wrong. For those of you who don't know, Gamefam is the dev studio that works with Funky Friday and have made / bought a part of various other Roblox games, including Sonic Speed Simulator and Starving Artists. Gamefam is also infamous for bringing shit updates to the table, such as the morphs and the Sonic Prime updates. And speaking of the Sonic Prime update, guess what that ended up getting Funky Friday into? A whole ass legal ordeal. For those of you who don't know, I'll break it down for you. On December 10th, Ninja Muffin and Phantom Arcade, two of the original FNF developers, replied to a promotional tweet Gamefam made on how they were implementing Sonic Prime related shit to a few of their games, Funky Friday included. Phantom Arcade was confused, however, Ninja Muffin replied saying that he was going to quote-unquote consult his lawyers about this. So, after this, calamities started happening. More details about Gamefam were released with people saying that they were mistreated and severely underpaid. Gamefam also made a horseshit response regarding the whole dilemma, which was literally just them bragging about their company while simultaneously being a job ad. As for Funky Friday itself, many mod developers were beginning to pull their mods from the game, which caused Kofu, a former Funky Friday contributor, to make a huge Google Doc revolving around keeping track of every single mod and song being removed from the game. So what's the main takeaway from this? The way I see it is that both parties are at fault here. Gamefam was obviously in the wrong. They are a massive game development studio who should be able to take care of their employees, especially when they own this many games which have all earned a pretty hefty amount of money. Also, the fact that they made an apology that didn't acknowledge shit and was just a way to gloat is beyond fucking pathetic. Oh, and let's not forget how they teamed up with Sega to create a Sonic Prime integration in a fucking unlicensed FNF Roblox game. However, what I really want to turn your attention to is the not-so-obvious negligent practices that have been conducted by Light during this period of time. You see, I've gotten official confirmation as to how the Gamefam collab somewhat works from an anonymous source. Basically, how it works is that Gamefam pitches an idea, Light greenlights it, and everyone starts working on the update. And before anyone says that Gamefam completely bought out Funky Friday, that's literally just not true at all. If Gamefam really bought out the entirety of Funky Friday, then things like the Discord would have been completely rebranded and the main developers would not be announcing updates still. LEGO was literally the one who announced the Sonic Prime update. Is that not enough information to convince you that that's not the case? Also, speaking of the Discord, I also find this message absolutely hilarious. This was written by one of Funky Friday's admins, Jamie, who said that there was quote-unquote misinformation going around about everything. Newsflash, there's almost none. It was only the lawsuit that could be considered misinfo. Everything else we knew was true. People were pulling their mods, and Gamefam implemented a collab with Sega into an unlicensed fan game. And also, why not just let people discuss? Or use blacklisted words? Shutting down General and almost the entirety of the Discord server is just uncalled for. Overall, both parties are to blame, and I'm tired of these developers using the quote-unquote college excuse when they could very much put other, much more trusted people in charge like Aussie and Tambrush. Light is at fault for being negligent and mindlessly approving these terrible ass and legal action warranting updates, and Gamefam is to blame for pitching these updates to begin with, as well as not treating their employees well. Albeit, there is absolutely zero hope for Funky Friday as we know it. With the recent Gamefam controversy, the game is beyond repair. Several mods have already been pulled from the game in the most recent update without any way of telling right off the bat. It's disappointing for a fact. If Light just cared about the game more and prevented Gamefam from making these shit updates, perhaps we wouldn't be talking about this right now. If you want a good Roblox FNF experience, go ahead and play games like FNB and Lemon Funky, as they are much better, objectively well-made games that deserve so much more popularity than Funky Friday. As for me, I will probably be continuing with Funky Friday content, just not as often since it's just not as feasible anymore. Thanks for watching, and please, fix your motherfucking game. Light Interactive and Gamefam Studios.